we are confident they will be, all the CBC and the 9 states will be ready with their software.
The clients that we speak to, I think some of the big challenges that they face right now are number one, multiplicity of platforms that they have at their end, and as to how those platforms can be made ready for GST.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prakash Kumar, and thank you, Prashant Pillai, for talking to Tax Sutra. We had a very interesting GST session, and the whole country is extremely excited with this reform, GST, which will come into effect hopefully in 2017. Mr. Kumar, you have been spearheading the GSTN initiative, which is really the backbone of this GST law. As much as the law is important, the IT framework which will make it happen is equally important. If you could tell us some of the key things that have been achieved by GSTN so far, and from here till the GST rollout, what are the 2 or 3 major areas where the work will continue from GSTN?
So as you mentioned, we are creating the front-end IT infrastructure on which taxpayers will be filing their returns, uploading invoices, and creating challans for making payments. We have divided this entire activity into 3 phases. The first phase is which is required before the rollout, which is registration, return, payment. So that's, and the transitional provisions, from transitioning from existing to the new one. And the next phase is where you have audit, assessment, refund, etc. And the third phase is for business intelligence and analytics. So we are working on the first phase and part of the phase 2 as well together. The registration part will be made operational next month when we launch the enrollment part. The idea is that all the existing taxpayers under VAT, excise and service tax, we get their complete data in the new system. Part data we have already got from the states. Part we need to get from the taxpayers, the latest data from them. So that's the first part. Simultaneously, we're working on the return and the payment part, and there are 4 releases. So this is the first release, and 3 more releases, one in November end, December end, and January end. It's a very tough timeline, and there are lots of things still not fully defined, but we are working on the draft rules and all the business processes which have been provided by the government.
Right. We still are awaiting the final version of the law, and hopefully in November it is expected that we will see the next set of GST bills. Of course, once the law is clear, then the business process logic in the GSTN can be finalized. But assuming that the law will be out in November, how soon GSTN can put this into the technology framework?
So if we had waited for that, it will take at least 1 year, because it's quite a complex thing. So we started working last year, November, based on the business processes available, and we have progressed as and when the government provided the draft law, and now 6 rules which have already come to us. What happens once the Parliament passes the law? Then there will be certain changes. I mean, we expect certain changes, and that's that we have time, December, January and February, to incorporate them. So it's a very tough timeline, but that's our idea. So we are creating software based on whatever the latest documents we have, and whatever changes come when the law is finally passed, law meaning the act and the rules, that delta will have to do again, reconfigure the software in December to February.
Right. GSTN is considered as a one nation, one tax, and GSTN will be one system. That's what people understand. I understand that each of the state will be integrated with GSTN, but they have their own independent systems as well, which would coexist or which will be built upon GSTN. If you could share your experience with different states, how have they sort of worked with you and your team in making the GSTN successful?
So one is the front end part, where people will come, do the registration, payment, etc., and the other part is where the tax officials will work on that for assessment or refund, etc., that we call back end, and that is what is required to be done by CBC and all the states. The government decided, or the states, some of the states requested us to do the back end as well. So we are developing back end for 25 states, And that is the phase 2 what I mentioned. Only 9 states are doing on their own, and the CBC is doing on their own. Now, how integration in today's world, IT integration works in a little different way. It is not tightly integrated. What we do, we have released the APIs, basically the formats in which we will publish the data and they will consume. A simple example is, if a return is filed, what it will look like, and the first line will be, say for example, the TIN of the taxpayer. So when the other system reads, they will read the first line as TIN of the system. Second, they will read the total turnover, like that. So this is what we have done, and they have already started consuming those APIs, and they are developing their software. We are confident they will be, all the CBC and the 9 states will be ready with their software.
Right. Prashant, let me come over to you. We heard it, Mr. Prakash Kumar say all about technology. We have been hearing that GST, as much as law is important, the technology is equally or more important in making GST into a reality. When you talk to your clients, what are the challenges that they anticipate in the GST implementation, and how critical technology play do you see in the GST implementation?
Sure. So I think the clients that we speak to, I think some of the big challenges that they face right now are number one, multiplicity of platforms that they have at their end, and as to how those platforms can be made ready for GST, and what should be the IT architecture, what should be the IT approach to be done in a way that the tax positions that emerge out of applying the law, interpreting the law, can be then suitably incorporated for a seamless determination of tax, but also going onwards to do a full compliance as well. I think the second challenge that they're seeing is in terms of the filing, in terms of the returns, the GSTR1 and GSTR2. The whole GST implementation, IT implementation has to presume or ensure that your supplier ecosystem is also compliant, which is to make sure that you actually don't lose input tax credit, and you have mechanisms within the organization that allow for you to engage with suppliers in a manner that you have seamless compliance without leaving any credit on the table. Otherwise, that would lead to cash flow and cash flow challenges and issues. So that is a second aspect that customers really worry about and tend to think about how can they do that in a more seamless way. So I think those two would be the kind of key challenges, and one of the things that we are seeking, and there are a number of business systems or the number of industries where to my earlier point, the number of applications that they tend to use, specialized applications, there's so many that the volume of effort that needs to be done to make sure that we are ready by April 1st, assuming the law is fully final in November, that is also the timing challenge that people are trying to grapple with, assuming they've sorted the first two.
Right. Prashant, Thomson Reuters has been involved in several countries where GST has been implemented. Malaysia is a recent example. Any learnings that you have gathered from your colleagues in those jurisdictions during the GST implementation phase, which the Indian industry businesses should be aware about?
Sure. So I think the learnings are not just from Malaysia, but over the last decade and a half, doing business in countries where GST has been in place and countries which have complex tax jurisdictions, whether it's the US or Brazil, both examples where we are very, very prevalent and engaged in. So I think the couple of learnings that we've seen, which are very important, is that is to really spend a fair amount of time at the implementation stage or pre-implementation stage and being extremely clear about how your tax positions have to be interpreted and applied across platforms. And if you do not spend the right amount of time either with your advisor or your in-house tax team, and in the GST regime here, we obviously have to take into account how the place of supply rules get applied to your particular business line. So I think that's been a very critical part of making sure that the implementations are done in a seamless and time-effective way. The second thing is, our experience has been that customers are very soon realizing that a kind of patchwork approach to implementation may be actually not self-sustaining, right? Which means trying to go to every system downstream and change it, write some custom code, and then try to make sure that every system is compliant, and then consolidate it, and then file a return is kind of suboptimal. So what people have done is over time have actually used this opportunity to take a little bit more of a strategic approach and say, hey, this is a challenge, and in the Indian instance or any other instance in the world, the law is not going to be, it will evolve, right? So whatever architecture you put in, you must try to use this opportunity to make sure it's a sustainable architecture as well, right? For the future. So those are the two learnings we've had working with some of our large customers, high volume transactions, complex, multiple jurisdictions, and those kinds of experiences.
Right. So Prakash Kumar, last question for this afternoon. Your message to the industry, time is really running out for everyone. Everyone is grappling with this. What are the 2 or 3 things that you will tell CFO, tax heads, and even the CEO's office for getting ready for the GST implementation?
Thank you for raising that question. It's not sufficient that only we create that infrastructure. It has to be both the parties have to go hands in hands. And the way the GST has been drafted, no paper-based information will be accepted, whether it's registration application or returns, or for that matter, payment. Now, for that means they need to put in these systems in place. Today, what happens? They have everything done manually, and I'm talking about the small and medium level players.
Sure.
And they give it to someone who prepares that, keys in. Now, if they do that, there will be lots of errors, and that error will lead to rejection of ITC, etc. It's better that they invest a little bit and go for it. And towards that, to help them, we are working with industry to come up with innovative solutions, so that there are enough number of solutions for people too, and they can suit different pockets. In fact, one company came and showed us using mobile phone how mom and pop store can maintain inventory, issue invoices, and file return.
Right.
All the 3. And it's just a phone. He said you don't need to. And the wholesalers and the people down above, they are also interested in, because they get live information about the stock available in the last store, so that they can manage the supplies accordingly. So this kind of innovation will come, but it is important. Thank you very much for raising that issue.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for speaking to us. Thank you so much.